right, everybody. Welcome back to the Purple Podcast. This is episode number 7 now. This is going to be our The Last of Us recap and review. This is going to be for, I said episode 7, didn't I? This is episode 42 now of the Purple Podcast. This is going to be our episode 7 recap and review for The Last of Us. This episode is titled Left Behind, which is actually the song that plays at the very end of the episode by a man named Gustavo Santaolalla. Sorry for the name mispronunciation, but a little fun thing to look at there in terms of we've had that music theme that we've discussed throughout. But yes, this is the title of the episode. It follows the theme of the episode. Intro here. Cut back on the notes, guys. Last episode, episode 6, recap and review, I had 7 pages of notes, which was just fucking ridiculous, to be honest. So we cut that way back on this one. We're actually at 4 pages of notes this time. Went back, did watch the episode again, was able to go through it, but just was more purposeful in my note taking and didn't write down every little thing that happened more so. And I think overall, the time and the work in terms of actually going through the episode and come with the notes still took a little bit of time. Definitely not as much as last time, which is good. And overall, I think it's just, I think I'm figuring this formatting out, and we're gonna figure it all out and continue to figure it out as we go along. Some purple changes coming up here soon and things to note. Not sure when I'm going to announce them, but could be very, very soon. Just working on some restructuring of the brand as a whole, but we'll figure it out, and I'll let you guys know as soon as everything's ready to rock. But yeah, let's hop into this episode, guys. Episode 7, as we had thought last time, that this is going to be a majority look into some Ellie backstory with Riley. But also we did get a little bit of our current timeline. So let's go ahead and hop into it. We begin seeing that Joel is still alive. We track up to this house. You see blood going up into the house. We see their horse in the in the garage there, and we hear Joel yell out. Ellie's helping him. This appears to be immediately following when we had initially, I guess, left off last episode. But so we'd say that they've traveled to this kind of hideout hole, and Ellie is attempting to mend and aid Joel with this stab wound, still bleeding freshly, and definitely does not look like that he is in good shape by any means. Ellie's trying to help him, so that role reversal that we discussed a ton last episode occurring right here. She's trying to help Joel out. She's having him put pressure on it, and Joel still trying to be the protector, still trying to, look out for Ellie's best interest, is telling her to leave. Get out of here, go north, find Tommy, leave me. Ellie, I really like that she's fighting back on this, and she's obviously pissed off. She's like, shut the fuck up, Joel. I love that she tells him this as she's trying to help him. She ends up does listen to him as Joel pushes her off completely, uses however much strength he has left to push her away, and tells her to get out of here. She finally, I don't know if that's necessarily what she's thinking, that she's actually going to leave, but you can tell just by the look on Bella Ramsey's face here that she's thinking about something. She walks up the stairs, pauses for a moment, and reaches for the doorknob, and here we go. We jump into the flashback. So we get a little brief look at where we had last left off. We see that Joel still is alive. Ellie is trying to help him, but now where is she going? She's left after having been told to leave, and we jump into this flashback. Really good transition here. Mentioned music already on this episode. We jump into a scene of, I guess, a Fedra school to some extent. Ellie is running laps. The song All or None by Pearl Jam is playing. Sweet transition, like I said. I thought that was good music. It was a good one that I haven't heard in movies or TV shows before, which I think is always good, but worked well. Shout out Walkman for making another appearance in a large production television show. calling back to Stranger Things. I'm not saying that that's why they chose this, but the Walkman was a pretty integral part of Stranger Things on its last episode, which was not in 2023, but was in 2022. Very recent, actually probably came out around the same time last year. But shout out Walkmans, get some screen time here as well. Ellie's running laps and is rudely interrupted by a bully named Bethany. Slaps it off her head. They get in a little kind of argument. Ellie says, I don't want to fight. Bethany says, fight? You don't fight, your friend fights. So she pokes the bear. Obviously, this strings a chord with Ellie, instigating her into, starting a fight. We don't really see the fight. We see Ellie go for the first punch. The next thing we see is Ellie in so and such Captain Kwong's office. We don't see him yet. She's waiting there. Looks at his image, looks at his wife. But Captain Kwong comes in. I think this is a pretty good scene. And another theme that we've discussed very often in this show is the gray. So we see Captain Kwong. He sits down with Ellie and, serves as this role model, just role model figure for her. He gives her a lot of really good insight and a lot of really good advice. And knowing that he is a Fedra guard and works for Fedra, you're a little perplexed by this just because he seems like a super nice guy. You're like, oh, he's actually looking out for Ellie. This is a good thing. And even at the end, Ellie opens up to him and says, following a really good line by him where he says, no matter what anyone out there says or thinks, we're the only thing holding this all together. So obviously he thinks he's a good guy. He's doing the right thing. But as we know, Fedra, they've been horrible in almost all places that we've seen them. This is Boston Fedra. So another neat thing to note, I wasn't super aware that Ellie was in Boston, to be honest. So right next to Joel, you would think maybe Joel would have seen her, considering like the Fedra zone isn't that small, or would have already known her prior to then. But I guess not. Anyways, Ellie does end up saying to him, after hearing all this advice, choosing your path. What do you want to do? Do you want to be someone who's shoveling shit for the Bethanys of the world? Or do you want to, follow the right path and become someone like me who is able to do whatever they like, essentially? We are warm in the winter, and he says something about the summer, but Ellie chooses to, he's like, yeah, that sounds like the better option. I'm going to take the keys, is what she says. And I think this is a purposeful choice in showing that she is siding with Fedra here and is listening to this authoritative figure who's giving her advice. But all comes back to that gray and who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. Is it Fedra? Is it the Fireflies? I think it's a little bit of both. And Captain Kwong seems like a great guy, a good role model for her, giving her the good advice. But at the same time, to become someone in that position, you wonder what he's had to do and what, unmoral things it's taken for him to get there. So just a cool insight and look into that gray as well. But Ellie does choose it, and it's a purposeful choice, and it comes back to play later in the episode as well. She says keys. She sides with the Fedra guard. She, agrees that they are the ones holding it together to some extent, and that she's going to choose this path. At the end, she does ask for a Walkman back, so another shout out to her Walkman. Definitely need to be carrying that thing. But yeah, next scene here, we hop into, or we see Ellie's room and a bit of, like the living quarters. A lot of Easter eggs in this scene. So we see her No Pun Intended book. So the first one, not the No Pun Intended 2, which we have seen later. We see her reading Savage Starlight. So another callback to that as well. It was almost like overkill, the amount of Easter eggs that we see in this just first scene and visual setting up and showing her whole entire room. So like I said, No Pun Intended, Savage Starlight. We see her knife that she's used throughout the season so far as well. We see Aha, a cassette tape by Aha, which is an 80s band, which immediately set me up and made me think to that. Is that purposeful? Was that chosen because they're an 80s band? And as we know from this show, or as it's kind of hinted at and played on, that 80s means danger, and that little code that Bill and Frank set up with Tess and Joel. But definitely immediately thought to that, aha, the 80s band. And then we also see our Mortal Kombat 2 poster. So a lot of Easter eggs, really cool. And, we see a bit of, these things throughout the episode. But as Ellie is sitting here in her bed reading Savage Starlight, we hear, I guess, some kind of authoritative figure tell him to turn the lights out. It's time to go to bed. She gets in bed, goes to sleep, or begins trying to go to sleep, and we see someone sneaking in through the window, this person being Riley. So we end up being introduced to her. Whatever reason or another, Riley thinks the best form of showing up and finding her is sticking her hand over her mouth like it's some kind of hostage or kidnapping situation. Silly, especially because Riley has, we soon find out, has ran away and can't and shouldn't necessarily be found or seen here. So causing a fight and a kerfuffle, I guess is what we can say, is probably a bad idea in terms of the noise. And overall, I just think this whole scene, they're just a little too fucking loud. Like, they're yelling when that person, as I said, just came by and said, "Lights out, ladies." So you would imagine that, they're not too far removed. You probably shouldn't be yelling, screaming at this person who just showed up into your room, who has ran away and everything like that. But we soon see this dynamic, or this is the first look that we get at Riley and Ellie and how they kind of communicate with each other. We find out, as I mentioned, that Riley has ran away. She ends up letting Ellie know, why. So she lets her know that she joined the Fireflies. Ellie doesn't believe her at first, says, "Yeah, you're fucking kidding me. I don't have time for this," and turns around. But then Riley flashes that to Ellie, and she immediately believes her and is like, "What the fuck?" But yeah, it tells her a little bit about the Fireflies and, or that she has joined them. And then Riley brings up the proposition, or says to her that, "I have something for you, or have a question for you. You're going to say no, but then you're going to say yes," which I think is neat. This is a place that I found a parallel between Joel and Ellie. So some way that they are similar, in that we've seen Joel throughout this show being the person that says no right off the bat. And then it takes him a second, but he ends up warming up to the idea and comes around on the yes. So we've seen that with Joel through, initially finding Henry and Sam. Ellie brings that up with him. I'm sure there's other situations, but that's the one that comes to my mind currently. But a parallel here. Riley reads this on Ellie. This is something that Ellie does as well. She says no at first, and exactly, that's what she does do. She says no at first, but then warms up to the idea and says, "Yeah, I'll go with you." Even though, this rang on my anxiety, and just this thought of going out. Ellie's like, "I have drills in however many hours, like 2 hours or something, or however long it was, and she's going to go out, be out all night, and have to go up or wake up early and go work out." That's just, that made me feel anxious for her there. But they do go. They escape through the window. They drop down. Immediately a joke that was made where Riley says Fedra's fucking stupid, gets paid off here, that there's no guards apparently looking. That's how they'll get out. We see the guard truck go by, and Ellie says, "Yeah, really fucking stupid." So they immediately pay that joke off, which is pretty funny. It's something that I was thinking initially in that moment as well. Like as the truck goes by, I was like, "Oh, like they're not that fucking stupid." And then, not a second later, Ellie goes, "Yeah, not that fucking stupid." So pretty funny there. As this scene continues on here, as they're traveling and going to their destination that we do not yet know, we see a little bit of insight into their dialogue, how they talk together. Shows, I think it was realistic in its depiction of a conversation between, teenagers, and just the amount of fucks that they say in this scene. Like, everything's like, fuck this, fuck that, fuck Carol, So a lot of that, they're like a couple of sailors, the way they're swearing. But I think it is realistic. You would imagine, or you look back to yourself at that age, and, that was all the hubbub. That's what we did. And honestly, I can't say that my mouth has gotten much better. I try to watch it. I try to be better on this show. I try to not do it all the time. But hey, it's some good emphasis sometimes. And, sometimes it's not even for emphasis. Sometimes it's just filler words. And I'm trying to be better about it. But, hey, I'm like Ellie. I'm like Riley. I'm not great at it. I like throwing my fucks out there here and there as well. But we arrive at this building. They go through the window, hop into it. Another instance where I'm thinking, guys, you're just being a little too loud. I get that, you've already been here, Riley, but don't you think it would be smart to at least still be a little bit cautious? Don't be yelling as you enter this new building, stomping on the floor, going up the stairs, which immediately you see there's a dead body. So it's like, oh, you need to be more cautious and be more careful. Things can change in a day. So in a dangerous world, they were not taking a lot of precaution. Very loud. That scene as a whole was just like, I put WTF next to. So like, what the fuck? We see this dead guy. They walk up to him. I guess he has some purposes in terms of like following a little bit of, or revealing some backstory with Riley. But yeah, they walk up to this dead guy. They're looking at him. He has a liquor bottle. He has pills. He has, I guess, overdosed upon drinking and taking this with pills. And then out of nowhere, like, this is the really weird part and just makes the scene more bizarre. He just falls through the floor. I don't know what to say about that. Weird choice. He just falls through the floor, but I guess it's just, maybe it's to show their twisted humor because they do laugh at this together. A world like this is going to create some twisted humor in these people and these characters. Was it just to give them the liquor bottle so they can have a turnt-ass night? I don't know. What it really probably comes down to is setting up this Riley-Ellie difference, because Ellie ends up asking Riley, is that your first time seeing a dead body? To where Riley responds, no, it's not. My parents. So that's a difference between Ellie. It's something that comes back as well later in the episode in terms of, I guess it defines a bit of why the characters are the way they are. Why Riley is on the Fireflies. There's this whole dynamic throughout the show of, Fireflies versus Fedra, who's good, who's bad, which side is who on. And a reason why Riley is here, is because of, she's lost her family and she's decided that, this has given her some kind of insight into that. It's not something that Ellie has experienced, but Riley has seen a dead body. So maybe that's the purpose, but overall kind of a funky scene. But Riley does tell her a little bit more about the Fireflies, as they get discussing this. Ellie does that. This is kind of, Frank Ellie parallel. So we got some parallels coming in here as well. Ellie asked that question. He's like, oh, so what? Did you find some boyfriend that's part of the Fireflies? Is that's how it came about? So same kind of question that, Frank asks Bill. He's like, who's the girl? So funny. Good little callback. I noticed it and thought was pretty interesting there. Ellie uses the same approach. Obviously, we know these two characters are intimately interested in each other, but that's not necessarily on the table for them yet. They don't know this. But as I mentioned, we get that Riley, Ellie, Fireflies, Fedra kind of, I guess, combative, not even combative, but just they're on each other's side, or on other sides here. Ellie quotes Captain Kwong from the thing that she was, or his lesson that he was giving her earlier, or I guess just basically, the insight that he was giving her earlier. She almost verbatim repeats what he says. She's like, I don't think it's all that cut and dry. Fedra's actually the ones holding things together. So as I said earlier, when she chooses keys or says keys, that's a purposeful choice. She is on board with Fedra at this point in time. But then, as much as Riley kind of deflects this question, and, as much as I'd want to argue, we got places to be. So as they go, and we get a nice little parkour intermission where they're just jumping over buildings from to and from. Moving on to our next scene here, as we do finally arrive, and we discover that it is the mall that we will be going to. Riley has Ellie go out into this, I guess, concourse. I don't even know how you want to call it, but this overlook balcony in the mall. All the lights have been turned off, but Riley has already explained that Fedra has turned on, I guess, the power to this area, but they don't know that, you can turn all this on now. And awesome visual here. This was one of my favorite scenes from the episode, just in terms of visuals, no doubt. So Riley turns on the lights. We see them one by one come closer and closer to Ellie as she's watching this. And as I've mentioned a lot on this podcast or following this show, one of my favorite things about like a post-apocalyptic piece of, like TV, film, anything like that is places frozen in time. So as I said, I wish I would have seen the high school that didn't make it into this video game or make it to the show from the video game. I would have liked to see more of the college and like come up some of the dorm stuff, get some of that frozen in time aspect that is great about this episode. We do get it. We show up at a mall. A mall is another one of those settings that you would definitely, or I would put in the same realm of like, oh, that would be super cool to see in a world where everything's been deserted and, left frozen in time. So really cool that bit. This scene here, we figure out that Riley has something planned for Ellie, a whole kind of adventure, the 4 wonders of the mall. Aha starts playing, so another call to that. We saw it earlier, so it starts playing, and once again, I get that thought in my head because I know a bit about this story already and how it goes, and I hear this 80s song, and I'm thinking, motherfucker, it's danger. I know it seems happy right now. I know it seems great. Ellie's going up and down this escalator. She is marveled by it. She's like, moving stairs. Is this the first wonder? And Riley says, sure, there can be 5 wonders. So no, it wasn't, but Ellie's really taken to it. And this happy music's playing. It's overall just a really good time. You get to see a lot of their relationship more so here. I think there's a good little transition that we see. So the first escalator scene right here as they're traveling through the main hall of the mall, this escalator scene where they're really awkward and corny throughout the whole entire episode, which I think it's purposeful because these are kids, so they're teenagers. It's not supposed to be so dark and heavy and super intense conversations all the time. So it should be. It's awkward. It's corny. Ellie is really bizarre, like going down this, and overall, it's goofy. I'm not gonna say I don't love it because that doesn't feel right, but it just overall is like kind of weird. But that it should feel that way. They're just like weird little teenagers. They're awkward. They're goofy. And it just makes me feel a little awkward sometimes too. But it is, this whole scene is a pretty good transition and show the like levels of, where they're at with each other. So we see this escalator. They're having all that fun together. We walk up to that Victoria's Secret window where it begins that kind of tension. And you feel that there's more to these characters than just friendship. And that they think about each other in a certain way. Not necessarily Riley, and I think that might be one of my gripes throughout the episode is I don't necessarily ever feel that Riley is necessarily like romantically interested in Ellie. Definitely feel their friendship from Riley. But on Ellie's side, I think she does really good in showing that she's like seeing her insecurities throughout the episode and how, she is viewing her, she is behaving like someone who would be romantically interested in someone. So that Victoria's Secret, Ellie, see she kind of fixing her hair in the mirror or in the window there. The next thing we see, or the next wonder, our second wonder here being the carousel. Really pretty scene. Like the music, and this is when they've they're fully committing to it, and we see the way Ellie is looking at Riley, which that's what I mean. I feel like we could have seen Riley catching or having her little spare glances over at Ellie, But we don't get a lot of that. She's more so like stoic, and you don't get a lot of her projecting onto Ellie, but you definitely feel it from Ellie, which maybe it's a compliment more so to Bella Ramsey. Maybe it's the way it's written and shot that we just feel it a lot more from her side. But I do feel it, and I believe it from Ellie that she really likes Riley romantically. I know I keep saying it that way, but I don't know how else to really say it. But you can tell this, that she is interested and, wants it to be more than what it is currently. I guess in this next scene, we get a little bit of it from Riley in the photo booth. So they take these photos together. I guess this is the third wonder at this point, but they have this photo booth scene. And at the end of it, Riley ends up kind of leaning on top of Ellie, and Ellie says like, "Hey, get up," which weird. You would think she would have embraced it, but maybe she's not fully, she's awkward. She's a teenager. She's going to react funky ways. And maybe she just like was really nervous and it freaked her out for a second. But you do see that growth between their characters, and just kind of, you get some kind of insight into like their thought process, what they're thinking, how they feel about each other. So we see their escalator. So that's their fun friend time. Victoria's Secret, things become a little more, romantic. Carousel, where they're definitely like, wow, this is a really wholesome moment. And then the photo booth is just kind of more of that on top of it. Moving on to our next wonder and the next scene. This was one of my favorite scenes of the whole entire episode, is that arcade. So we walk up to it. We see this arcade, which is just so damn sick. As someone who loves video games myself, I can't even imagine how awesome it'd be to like show up to Gaddyland in the middle of the apocalypse, when deserted, and see all these things running, all these games, and have it all at my fingertips. So we walk in and we're like, let's go. We're at this arcade. Ellie's fucking around on a little I guess racing game, and says, "Do we have any money?" Riley points to the ground where there's a bunch of dollar bills, and Ellie's like, "Oh, we can't do anything with those, like coins." And then one of the sickest parts of the whole entire episode, Riley drops the coin machine down and says, "Let them things fucking jangle." Drops all the coins to the floor, and it's like, let's go, baby. We're going to be able to play every single game in here as much as we want, and there's nothing that can stop us from doing it. What an awesome experience to be able to have in the apocalypse. Like, who the hell else gets to experience this? Very soon we go over to that Mortal Kombat 2 game, which I get that Ellie has some affinity for the game because she obviously has a poster, but she's never played it before, which this is a note I put down, is just, it just sucks that they hadn't played before, and that it's just like, I guess, something that they had seen and became affiliated with and liked. But they've never played it, so there's not like that nostalgia factor that necessarily would have hit if it was like, if I'm in this world, if the apocalypse happened right now and I were to go to a GameStop or some shit and they had NCAA football 14 and I was able to play that, the nostalgia and the awesomeness that would bring and make me feel, being able to play a video game with your friend again in this world that like definitely doesn't exist. See, they haven't had it yet. They haven't experienced it yet. So it doesn't feel as awesome, but I don't know how they really could have made it work unless they had, there was one in the QZ or something. But even still, then they would still have like access to it and wouldn't be as tight being able to play it now. So I'm not exactly sure how they should have gone about that, but I definitely feel like it would have been really sick or just more impactful if they would have played the game in the past and, hadn't been able to play it forever. But the timing doesn't work. The apocalypse happened too long ago. At this point, they weren't alive. They're babies. Nonetheless, still really cool that they get to play this game together. And then, right in the middle of it, one of the spookiest parts of the whole entire episode, we get this little spooky intermission in between where immediately the volume kind of drops and you feel this like ominous tone, all goes quiet, and we zoom out, we pan through the rest of the mall, and you know exactly where it's going, but it's still really spooky. And obviously they, or not even obviously, but they choose to go into or make this infected person in the spookiest or just kind of stereotypically scariest looking shops. There's just a bunch of like old dolls, and you see this thing wake up, and it's gonna have to make an appearance at some point. We know this. It's not just gonna stay dormant. It didn't wake up for nothing. It didn't show us it for nothing. So all the way along, I know this story. I know what happened. So I was waiting for some kind of turn in events, and it doesn't fully turn yet. It just kind of sets it up and gives you that ominous feeling in the back of your head that shit's gonna happen at some point. But we see that the coins have gone. They've played a ton at this point. Ellie finally does win, and they have this look at each other that's good. I think Bella Ramsey as a whole does great throughout this episode in her looks and her expressions and how she looks at Riley, and that's why I believe it so much that she is encaptured by Riley. She is fully in love with Riley. That I just don't think we see necessarily from Riley. She puts on this whole show for her. She does this thing, and maybe that's her love language, is acts of affirmation, doing things for them, providing gifts. Maybe that's her way of showing love. Ellie is more, she is just fully head over heels for Riley, and you feel that. But Ellie does end up saying, I have to go. I have to leave. It's time. Riley doesn't want her to go yet. Says, I have a gift for you. We follow Riley, or Ellie follows Riley into this room where we see that Riley has been kind of stashed out. She has her sleeping bag. This is where she's been living as of being gone from the QZ. And she gives her the no pun intended to book. So another way that is called back. We see that Ellie still carries this with her to this day, of course. But she gives it to her, and they have a good time saying the jokes back and forth together before it is all too abruptly cut when Ellie notices the pipe bombs that are sitting in this, on this storage little rack, and gets mad at Riley, says, is this what you're doing? Are you going to bomb me? Kind of deal. And overall just gets mad at her, says, I'm out of here, deuces, dips out. And she leaves, but Riley says this is her last night in Boston, or is about to leave. So that's what happens. So she sees her, gets mad at her, and she's about to leave. And Riley tells her that, this is my last night in Boston. I'm joining the Fireflies. I need to leave. I'm going. I asked if you could come. You cannot. But I wanted to do this for you. He's like, oh, so you came to say him goodbye, and you just did goodbye. Ellie dips out, walks out. I was waiting for this to happen, and, this is why they sold me or got me so good. But as Ellie is leaving, I was just waiting for Riley to scream. Obviously, we know that this infected person is somewhere in the mall. It's going to come back at some point in time. So I'm waiting for this scream. Ellie's walking away. She does end up turning back, and as she's walking back to meet Riley, we hear the scream, and it's like, oh shit, I knew it was coming. God, she's getting fucking attacked. How's this going to work? What's going to happen? Is she going to come up? She's already bit. Stab her? What's going to happen? But no, they got my ass. They really fucking got my ass. It's the fifth wonder. It's just a Halloween shop and some kind of, decoration that's screaming. Truly got me. Well done. Threw me for a loop there. But then we get into, I think, overall, just the best dialogue between Riley and Ellie this whole time. As I mentioned, the dialogue between them to this point has more so been really childish, awkward, goofy. So this is when they sit down, they have a very real conversation with each other. Ellie takes the book back after, leaving it with her. And we have this whole monologue where Ellie says, I don't even think you understand this cause that you're going with. But you're my friend. I love you. I'm going to miss you. But so like she's coming back and being accepting of it. That's another parallel between Joel and Ellie. If you think back to when Joel's telling about Tommy's past and how he joined a cause that he didn't know about. So first being the Army, then being the Fireflies. So interesting, just another little parallel between those two that are typically pretty different characters in nature. But we do see that, I guess Ellie does have that role reversal. So they have a bit of each other's characteristics as well, even though they are very different. But Riley then comes back saying that, this is where she explains why she joined the Fireflies, what the Fireflies give to her. She's a family, or this gives her a family. This gives her a purpose. This gives her people who care about her. The difference between her and Ellie. Ellie, you haven't experienced loss yet. I lost my family. You don't really know what that is. But yeah, I think this is a good conversation between the two. Ellie does say, which I think is pretty powerful, like, I cared about you first. And Riley, once again, in like her typical fashion that she's already done in this episode where she cuts, Ellie short, we get this less of this conversation. Riley gets them up on the counter to, dance, weird scene, another really fucking weird choice. I laugh at this scene because it made me feel so damn weird and awkward, like as they're dancing with these masks on. But it's fun. They're laughing, they're giggling, they're having a good time. Dancing with their mask on. Ellie ends up taking her mask off. Riley ends up taking her mask off as well. Ellie says, "Don't go." Riley says, "Okay." Ellie kisses her, says, "I'm sorry." And Riley says, "For what?" And finally, guys, it's out on the table. We've been building up to it this whole time, this tension that we felt throughout the episode between their two, at least from Ellie's side. Like I said, I don't know if I really feel it as much from Riley, which I think I'm not going to say it completely destroyed the episode by any means. That would be obviously, and this is nitpicky, but as a whole, I think I just could have used more from Riley and more from her character and that feeling. So to feel that, I just didn't feel it. She was really romantically interested in Ellie a ton. I definitely felt that she cared about her and, they were good friends. But I didn't necessarily feel like she needed her. I guess maybe that's more so what I'm looking for. Ellie really makes you feel that she is desperate for Riley, and Riley more so is, she has other things on the plate. She's got to go. She's got to leave, and she's going to say her goodbye. She's going to give her friend a great night because they're great friends. But until that moment, I guess so, when she finally says, "Okay, I'm not going to go," Ellie leaps for it. So they've admitted it to each other. They're together. They laugh. But, all too soon, this is cut short. This is, a great moment. Good Lord, just smacked the mic all over the place. But this is a good moment for them. The best moment probably for Ellie so far in her life. She's, I guess, confirmed this love with who she loves. And, there's the whole interesting aspect of, them being gay as well, that, not only do you not know that this person is interested in you romantically, just from the sense of, like how you would, but I guess it isn't necessarily as common, or there's just a whole nother element when, it's not necessarily the status quo, which is good. I think that is good for their characters, and this also just like longing or not knowing that this is what they are to each other yet until they do in that moment there. So a good scene for them. This pacing as a whole is crazy in the scene because we go straight from this, cut short, something's rumbling about. Guess who it is? It's our good old friend that we've been waiting for the whole entire episode. It's the Infected. He does show up. He does ruin the party. They fight. A little, scuffle breaks out. Ellie, for whatever reason, how do you not know at this point that body shots don't work? Damn it. Don't stab it in the body. It's not going to do shit. You stab it in its head. That is how you kill them. You should know this. You go to Fedra school. They know this. You would imagine Why don't we know this? Why do we not know this in current day either? Don't stab infected. Don't do shit to their body. It's not going to kill them. It's not going to do anything. You got to take the head. But we end up seeing Ellie stab it in the head after a couple body shots and a couple people get knocked around for whatever reason or however. Riley gets knocked out from the first tackle, which is just a shame because they should have got this done, guys. But I really love this acting for Bella Ramsey. And you know what? I'm going to call back to the times when I wasn't sure on her character. I'm fully sure on her character. She is a good female actress. I don't know the correct way to say it anymore, but either way, she is great at what she does. She is great at acting. I loved this like exuberance that you see from her, like this crazy release of adrenaline at the end where she's like, whoa, oh my God. After killing it and being triumphant in this, and just then the absolute turn of emotion when we see that she's been bit. Riley's been bit. And she's screaming. She's just horrified. She's had everything just in that brief moment. She was given everything and taken everything in that one brief moment, which is, at this point is just a copyrighted by The Last of Us, because they give us love. They give us it. They give us it at its highest levels just to take it right away. So I guess not fully taken away because there's going to be some romantic aspect to where, they live this out together, but she gets bit. I think the acting was awesome. I think this is the best acting of the episode as a whole, no doubt, just because of Bella Ramsey just smacked that, and really, really enjoyed seeing her just expressions, and to think, how young she is doing this as well. And it's a shame because she really outshines Riley. So Storm Reed in this episode. But yeah, we see this bite, and we transition back to our present day. We see Ellie looking around, scrummaging, looking for something. And as she's like pulling out a drawer, there's this transition that is, powerful, where Ellie is then, once again, Bella Ramsey just throwing it, putting it all on the line, acting her ass off here, slamming into the counter with a crowbar, breaking shit, screaming. You feel this raw emotion, which is, that's all I ever ask for or want from any kind of TV show, art, or any kind of form of art, is to, feel something, feel emotion. That's what it's supposed to do. It's supposed to put you in this place, put you in this mindset, put you in the same kind of situation or thought process that these characters are in as well. So we see her mad. But I guess, as critical as I maybe have been on Storm Reed or just Riley's character in this episode, I do like this line that she has here where they're sitting together. They lay out the options of, what the fuck do we do now? We can take the easy way. We can kill ourselves. No, I don't like that option. And I guess maybe, it works better. Her whole character's been stoic. I just don't think she's been super emotional, or was super emotional. But, she doesn't like that option. She doesn't want to kill each other, or kill themselves. I don't think we waste this moment. I don't think we waste our time together. However long it's going to take, we have this, and I don't want to waste it. So I think that's powerful. I think that's strong. I think it could have been better if I believed more that, this mattered so much to Riley. I believe it from Ellie. Oh, shit, I believe it from Ellie. But yeah, didn't get as much from Riley. One thing here that I have, because we do end up, right then and there, we jump back to the last scene or part of the show where we see Ellie ends up finding some kind of yarn, wire, whatever you want to call it, and goes back to Joel. Music picks up, as I mentioned, that Left Behind song by Gustavo Santaolalla, whatever. Sorry, no, not being rude, no offense. That's what I was looking for. Sometimes words leave me and I can't think of them when I'm on the mic, but that's okay. But that music picks up, intense. You see the scene where she is stabbing him. Well, she's stabbing him to sew up his wound, and you feel that is good. That the reason that she's doing this and the reason she's so pressed to make Joel better is because of what has happened to her in her past, what she has lost in her past. We saw what she's losing, and where I think there might be a big miss, and I think they have to show this. And overall, I think it's contributed to why this episode, really good as all of them have been, is probably on the lower scale of my thoughts. But we have to. I mean, we absolutely have to see Ellie and Riley together in those last hours as Riley progresses and gets worse. And Ellie, obviously being immune to this, not getting worse. So at some point in time, there's going to be that collision course where Ellie's either going to have to leave or kill her. And we didn't see it in this one, and I definitely feel like it should have been shown to really feel that loss. And I think that would have been literally the best scene of this whole entire episode if it was shown. It has not been shown. Will it be shown? It better goddamn be shown, because if they don't, that's going to be a super big miss. But as I was saying, that this is why it matters so much to Ellie. Why is she trying so hard? She will not leave Joel because she had to leave someone. She still can save Joel in this moment, and she doesn't want to be left alone. She's felt that loss. She's felt being alone, and she's going to do whatever she can to keep that from happening. But that's where it leaves us with that song playing out. This next episode is going to be an interesting one. It's probably going to be a bit of a solo episode if I know anything from the video games, but I don't know exactly. I think there's up in the air, obviously, from the trailers, we're going to see some kind of new group come into play. Are they good? Are they bad? I guess we'll see, guys. I'm not going to ruin anything for you. But yeah, looking forward to next episode. Concluding thoughts on this episode. As I said, good episode as a whole. I really like these backstory episodes. I think it's good to make us care more about these characters. But we definitely need to have that scene when Riley gets worse. I think my biggest thing about this episode that I didn't love is I just feel like in both timelines we were left unfinished. So it felt like a transition. Obviously we get that backstory, but I would have liked, the complete backstory. Are we breaking it up? Are we going to show more of it later? Since it wasn't in this, they have to, but I think it would have been more effective to include it in this episode and just, make this whole entire episode show the whole backstory and, lay it all out there, show the end of it, because God, that was going to be brutal. I wasn't close to crying in this one. I was not anywhere close. And maybe I still wouldn't have, because as I said, I didn't fully buy Riley's love for Ellie. That's an unfortunate truth. I definitely bought Ellie's. And is this like a Storm Reed, Bella Ramsey face-off? Like, one just ran circles around the other. So, Bella Ramsey crazy. I don't know. I'm not saying Storm Reed's a bad actress or female actor by any means. I just didn't love her character. I think it was a little bit dull. I think we could have gotten a lot more from her. She didn't have to be so stoic and so nonchalant throughout the whole thing. I do think their couple is good in terms of some of their dialogue, or like their dialogue, and that they're, like an awkward young couple. That's just kind of how it is. They're like goofy, they're weird, they don't know each other or themselves even fully yet. So they're just like goofy, doing their own thing, figuring it out, and there's that whole tension along. So I think they do a good job of highlighting that. I just wish I would have, as I've said over and over again, just see more things that make me know Riley needs Ellie, aside from like that last bit where she just says like, okay, I won't leave. It's not as, like definitive. I want to feel that a bit more. Definitely felt it from Ellie. But yeah, I just think both timelines were left a little bit unfinished. Overall, really good episode. Really enjoyed it. Where's it rank on my list currently? I have it sitting at 5th. I have not looked at the IMDb ratings on this yet. I'm going to do it live on camera here. But currently my rankings for the episodes, episode 3, Bill and Frank, is sitting at 1st. Still don't think it's going to be supplanted. It's going to be hard to, at least. Episode 5, this is the one where we lose Henry and Sam. Brutal. 2, sitting at 2. Number 3 is that first episode, really good one. Terrible loss in that as well. We lose Sarah. The breakout scene, just that build up, that tempo was awesome. Sitting at 4, episode 6. So our last episode actually is sitting at 4 for me. I think overall that was probably Ellie's best piece, and she's followed it right off with another good one. So this one's sitting at 5 for me. So 4, Ellie really felt her dependence on Joel in that last one. This one really felt her dependence and love for Riley. So I think Bella Ramsey's doing a killer job. I think they're writing it really well as well there. But then that comes with episode 2 being at 6th. So that's the one where we lose Tess. And then episode 4, when they first arrive in Kansas City, is currently sitting at 7th here. Another note that I forgot to mention is that Riley just feels, as I said, she just feels like a little dull. She's not super layered as a character. I don't, love a lot of what we see from her. It's good. It's all good and fine all around. You know what I'm saying? It's not like necessarily, well, it's definitely detrimental because it could have been better, but it's not super detrimental. It doesn't completely take away from the value of the episode. Like I said, I think it's a really good episode. All these things are very nitpicky. But in a perfect world, we care a lot more about Riley. So what I put in, I think, is a really good note is that she feels more like, Tommy and Maria to me type of a character. So she's just like a contributing character. We're not necessarily super involved with her. She's more serving as the person that, Ellie is pining for. And we're following Ellie's emotions more so in how dependent she is upon her. When she should, in theory, feel like Frank, same thing where Frank definitely could have just been like Bill's sidekick, but we loved them both and we cared about them both. And that's why at the end of the day, that 3rd episode is fucking strong. It is incredibly saddening, but incredibly happy at the same time. And it's because we care about those characters so much and, their love for one another. I'm feeling more one-sided on this one where she serves to show Ellie's love for her, but we definitely don't necessarily feel it given back from her. Of course, that could just be her love language, as I discussed earlier. But yeah, guys, let's look at this IMDb rating. I've been putting it off. I haven't done it yet. I think this will be a little fun. Where are we sitting at? Left Behind, guys. Left Behind is hitting at a 7.7. Is this another like an episode that they're rating or bomb rating just because of the homosexuality? Could it be? Let's see. Let's look more insight into it. So there are a lot of 1 stars, and I'm sure people have been doing that throughout. But 7.7, that would put us at the lowest episode so far, I believe. Yep, even long time, the 3rd one is sitting at an 8.0. So I can agree, guys. I don't think it was the most amazing episode of them. And, it's on the back half for me. And maybe I rated it at 5 just because, I think Ellie does really well. I think Bella Ramsey is killing it. And overall, I think that's contributed to why, I did enjoy this episode. I feel it from her. I think this might be her most, just the highs and the lows of her acting in terms of, what we're seeing from her was really good there. But let's hop into our categories, guys. This is where we're going to look at our favorite scenes, our favorite characters, as well as our favorite other themes and things. My favorite scenes from the episode, this one was just highlighted by a lot of setting stuff. So like that post-apocalyptic world we have, the mall arrival, I think that was awesome when it lights up. So as I said, moments frozen in time, really sick. That fight/bite scene. So that overall pacing from the when they're dancing together, they admit that they love each other, or not even, I guess they admit that they love each other through a kiss. And, then we have that fight, that bite. So just that full range of emotions that we experience in such a short amount of time, I think was a really strong scene, carried by Bella Ramsey and her acting there as well. But I think my overall favorite scene of the episode was that arcade. Let them motherfuckers jangle, baby. Drop them coins down on the ground. Let's play every game in this motherfucker as long as we can. We can run the place around. We can open up anything. We got all the coins in the world. Oh, man, that would just be a heaven. So I think that scene overall is just one that I could watch over and over again and would just really feel that, that feeling of just something that you shouldn't be experiencing right now, but you're just so damn lucky to be there. Favorite characters of the episode. Who won the episode? We saw a few characters, a couple added. So we had Captain Kwong and Bethany. They're not going to win it for me, but their characters, Bethany not as layered, but Captain Kwong, I liked the gray that he represented in this episode. Not everyone in Fedra is bad or appears to be bad, but we would imagine that he did something a little not great considering that he is in the position that he is. Riley, played by Storm Reed. We do see a little bit of Joel. There's not a lot to talk about Joel in this episode, but Riley, guys, I hate being a downer and talk about things that I didn't necessarily love, but I think her character wasn't amazing to me. Was it because of the way it was written? Was it because of the way it was acted? Was it just because of what the character is? I don't know. I just think I think it could have been portrayed better. We could have cared more about her. The only reason that we really care about her is because Ellie cares about her. It's not necessarily her winning us over, but it's Ellie's care for her that's won us over or won me over, at least. So, pretty easy answer for me here. It's going to be Ellie Bella Ramsey, and the transition that she's made from the beginning, where I was questioning her, I didn't necessarily love it. I think she is perfect for the part. I think she's killing it, and the acting and the range that she has is, pretty good. I like the raw emotion that she was able to show on this episode. Just the anger, the fear, the sadness, the admiration in her eyes, the looks that she makes when she's thinking. She's just overall like this. She is Ellie. This is her character. She's not someone playing someone. She's being this character, and she feels like this character, which is all you can ever ask for someone in the portrayal of a character in a movie. It's not like, thinking back to Elvis, when I saw fucking Tom Hanks in a fat suit, I was thinking the whole entire movie, hey, guys, that's Tom Hanks in a fat suit. No, I don't feel that with Ellie. Ellie is, or Bella Ramsey, this feels like the character. It doesn't feel like the, little Stark of Winterfell or whatever her character was in that. I don't even think about that. This is her character to me. This is who she's been, and I think she's done really well with it. And I believe, everything that she's doing here. So really well done for Bella Ramsey and Ellie there. Other themes / things, family, kin, love. We see a little bit of, Ellie Joel, so what she's doing for the people that she loves. Why she's doing this for the people she loves, because she hates being left alone. She's lost someone before. She's had this loss. She's had someone that she can't save, she can't fix, she can't take care of, a couple times at this point. I guess she didn't necessarily love Henry yet. Or it was Sam. I guess she didn't necessarily love Sam yet. But the things that she does because she tried to save someone, she's trying to save Joel here. That's because she loves him. That's because he's her family. Riley, same deal. That's why it's so painful for her, because this is someone that she loves. This is what's driving her motivations and actions today. The gray, as I mentioned, Captain Kwong, and also just the overall Fireflies Fedra theme throughout. So we see both sides. Riley has her talking points about the Fireflies and why they're doing the right thing. Their actions aren't good and how they're trying to accomplish it. Fedra, Ellie has her things. They're holding all the, civilization together. We would rip each other apart if we weren't involved, is what she says. So they're holding it all together. But at the same time, they're hanging people for crimes. And, other places, I'm sure they're doing worse. And, obviously there's going to be some bad ones in the batch as well. And overall, I don't think anyone's fully clean, and not everyone is, fully bad by any means here. I'm sorry, my phone is ringing right now, but that's all right. I don't know who's trying to call me. But anyways, guys, moving on to our flashbacks. Obviously, this whole entire episode is a flashback here, and I think it's been good to be able to follow these characters, see a little bit more of them that we wouldn't have in a typical video game fashion. We've talked about this before as well. Music, a lot of music in this episode. So you get that All or None Pearl Jam song, Take On Me, Aha in the 80s. danger, there is. And then that Left Behind, Gustavo Santaolalla. I've said his name a few times here, and I probably, kudos to me for trying to say it so many times when I could be saying it completely wrong throughout the whole thing. We also have that little dancing scene, so there's some music in that. I can't think of the song right now. But then another one that I added to this, our setting. I think the setting wins for this one. I think the setting as a whole was really awesome. I love being able to be in this small area. Like I said, very cool place to explore in the similar fashion of what a college would be, what a high school would be, those things of that nature. So super exciting setting and place to unfold this whole entire story and backstory. So our highlights of the episode, guys, we have the setting, we have the arcade with that jangle, so drop them coins, baby, and Ellie/Bella Ramsey as our highlights of the episode. That's our character, the arcade is our scene, and the setting is our theme. The thing that won it for me, guys, as a whole, setting. I'm rocking with the setting. I think it was really good. You could argue any of these. I think these are some really strong contenders. Ellie continuing with great performances, or Bella Ramsey continuing with great performances. Really like this character. Really believe this character. So awesome. Excited to follow her along. That arcade scene, really cool. Would have loved to experience that. And me, myself, same deal with just the entire setting. So the mall, being able to travel around that area. But that'll do it, guys. This was an hour-long episode, so a little shorter than last time. But overall, I think it was a bit more cohesive, and I think I, worked it a bit more. So excited. As I mentioned, guys, we're going to have some purple news here and there sometime soon. I don't think it's going to come today. I thought I might, but I don't know. I have a little bit of a scratchy throat and itchy throat, and it's gonna do with some more podcasts. So that's a hint. But we'll see, guys. Talking to you soon. What happens next episode? I don't know. We got 2 more. It's going to be interesting. Wins, I'm not even going to say that, guys. I'm not going to give anything away. But I'm looking forward to it. I'm loving the show. As I said, not one of my favorite episodes, but a good one. Ellie's killing it. Could have used more from Riley. I would say those are the most, concise, concluding thoughts. But other than that, guys, have a great rest of your week. It's Tuesday today. I'll have it out to you later. So listen up. If you're liking, give me a like, give me a subscribe, and, we'll be talking to you soon, guys. Purple Podcast, episode number 14.